Yeah, so who here notices, in any area of your life, it can be with your kids or not, but you have the kinds of patterns that repeat, right? You start repeating the same patterns of arguments or where you get stuck. Who here notices like there's patterns? It's like, oh, here we go again. I thought I was done with this. Here it is. Right. What's that?
I thought I won.
I thought I won, and it's back. Patterns are occurring because we keep bumping up against the same pattern within ourselves that we haven't looked at, or we haven't looked at enough. And looking at it's one piece, but more importantly, it's not analyzing it. It's not deconstructing it and figuring it out. That's not actually going to help you. It's actually being present with it, processing it. Because a lot of us have become pretty head-centered. We actually don't know how to process feelings. We think about it, we strategize about it, we compensate, we do something to make ourselves feel better. In reality, we're having an emotional experience that's coming up. Maybe it's really old, and maybe it's here. Maybe it's from childhood, because if it's from childhood and hasn't been resolved, it's still here. Adult doesn't mean we're done with that. It just means I have a veneer in myself and I say, ta-da, I'm an adult. That was so long ago, it doesn't matter. Oh, it matters, because it's happening now. You're being 6 now, right? So, or in my case, like 16, that would be really bad, right? Which I've done in my 20s and occasionally in my 30s. Here's a 16-year-old and I'm enraged and I can't control myself because there's a piece I missed. Ugh, pretty humbling. It's real, right? So if we can actually be present enough with the feeling itself and notice where we feel that feeling in our physical body, because it's a sensation, emotions we can feel, and we breathe into that. That's not like wallowing in the mire. Wallowing in the mire is being in our head spinning. Like in Buddhism, one of the terms for this is samsara. It means the vicious cycle. We're just going over and over and over and over in the mind, because the mind wants something to be different or it wants something to stay the same. So we're spinning and spinning and spinning. That's not going to get us anywhere. When we can drop to our deeper truth, then we get to metabolize this undigested emotional experience. Then we actually use our emotional body, so to speak, to process our emotions. And we can start to, simply by being present with that feeling, process it. There's nothing to think about, really. Now, there are beliefs we've created, and they're going to get a whole lot more perspective once we process that feeling. Now, this is important because if we're going to help kids become whole human beings, we got to help them learn how to process their emotions. So how do you process your feelings? We tend to get too masculine, and I don't mean male, I mean masculine. Masculine energy, which we all have, is the doer, the fixer, the solver, the visionary, the strategizer, the protector in many ways. And it has a place, of course. We need a balanced masculine energy in our lives, but we're not being in the feminine enough, and that feminine is the compassion, the compassionate, the nurturing. It is space. Where the masculine fills space, the feminine is space. Are we having enough space to be present with ourselves? So masculine kind of sets that container, and we allow ourselves to be nurturing, tender, with our own experience. And it's by that then we can not react so intensely with kids. It's by that we can help them deal with their feelings. And this is, we should be teaching this. I work with people who are from really stuck with intense diseases to traumatized from horrendous things to suicidal. There's a few ways to help them, but one thing is true, that when they can actually meet their experience, go into that darkness in a way that's safe, they start to process it. And they go, I feel more grounded and more calm. Whew, wow, I've never done that. And why they feel more grounded and calm is we're using the natural intelligence that we have to work with these deeper currents. And so this is a really big piece in parenting, because we want to help kids learn how to process their inner world, and we want to connect to their inner world, and if ours isn't processed, it's in the way, then we certainly can't help them. It's awesome. It's so awesome, this opportunity. A friend of mine said that relationships are crucibles designed by the universe to bring up all your unhealed parts. So here you are, all these unhealed parts, and you're working on them in your own way. Then you get in a relationship, and they really come up at times, and you can work on them or not. You can blame and project. You can point the finger at yourself and go, what's up with me? And start to work on this. And ideally, you work on it, then you have kids. But that's not how it really goes. You have kids, and then all the unhealed parts, it's like throwing gasoline on them, because then they really start to come up. So the question is, how do we react in that moment to the deeper reality at hand that something's coming up? That, I mean, think about it, your kids have this too now. It just wants to rise. And then we push it down. It just wants to rise. And we push it down. And maybe we process it here and there. We can have like 50 some scars. But as we process one of them, they all tend to get smaller because it's all connected, which is convenient. We start to learning how to relate to our inner experience. So we have more flow and it arises. And we can start processing that and being with that. And then helping kids with that when we can recognize, oh, there's these things going on. Because maybe you can say one thing to one kid but not to the other, because that thing is going to trigger them. It's like, God, I can't say anything without them freaking out. Awesome. Something really needs to get met and processed, and it hasn't been met. That's not a problem. In fact, pain is not a problem. One of my teachers said this, and it was revolutionary for me. Pain is not a problem, but thinking that pain is a problem is a problem. Pain is only a problem when we judge it as such, and when we do that, we derail from the path to actually working with that experience and healing it. It's our belief that it's a problem because we don't like being uncomfortable. Okay, so you don't like being uncomfortable, so what? You're going to be uncomfortable. You don't want to get out of bed some mornings, so what? You got to get out of bed. So what we see as uncomfortable, we tend to go, don't want that. In the darkness is the light. When we face that and move into it, it actually is the medicine we need. It is amazing how it's designed. When you go into the things that you resisting it makes you neurotic and stressed out, and you spin and get hooked and in your patterns. And when we go into it, the light comes from it, and we start to go, and there's a release.